Coming to you live from Johannesburg over the next hour, an in-depth look at the big local, international and African stories that are shaping our world this evening. This is Tonight with Jane Dutton.
We've heard that there's stage 4 load shedding. Now that comes as quite a shock because it's reported that there are 6 units that have gone down. Now that is most worrying, most disturbing, and it has shocked me and has also made me quite angry that we've reached this stage of dysfunctionality. And the Minister of Public Enterprises is busy right now, together with the board, with that issue. And when I get back home, I will be getting a report. So we've got to address this because Eskom is a risk. We've got all our energy eggs in one basket. When the generator of energy in our country reports that there are 6 units, it means that all 6 eggs are broken, and possibly we just have maybe a dozen eggs, and it should not be like that. And that is why we are saying we now need to have a new business model for Eskom, where we're able to minimize the risk, minimize our risk as a nation.
Hyde Park tonight in total darkness. This is what level 4 load shedding looks like, unprecedented in South Africa's history. We've never been here before. Eskom says it's unexpectedly lost 6 generating units. We discuss the financial impact of this national crisis and what it means for you and for me. South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and yet very little reconciliation at all. Remembering the pain and the anguish, and still no closure for the victims. So 29 years after the release of Nelson Mandela, what's behind the push for a commission into the TRC? And an open letter calling on the president to apologize. We speak to one of apartheid's victims. Taking on one of the toughest jobs in South Africa, the hunt for a new head of SARS, the challenges in turning a corrupt and dysfunctional agency into something we can be proud of again. In today's political climate, is it even possible? We're live in Washington, D.C. ahead of another government shutdown. That means that jobs could be at risk again as business grinds to a halt, and all because President Donald Trump really, really wants his border wall with Mexico at any cost. And we have a roundup of the winners and losers, the glamour and the royalty at the BAFTA Awards. But first, here is a look at the news. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he's shocked at the current power cuts, calling it most worrying. The country's in uncharted waters right now with Eskom's announcement it's implementing unprecedented stage 4 load shedding. This is a first for the country. Couldn't come at a worse time with government preaching the need for economic growth aided by domestic and foreign investment. ENCA reporter Michael Apple takes a look.
Our electricity company, Eskom, is in crisis.
The president made these remarks during the State of the Nation address. At that point, the country was yet to experience load shedding this year. That changed on Sunday as Eskom implemented stage 2 load shedding. And just after 7 on Monday morning, Eskom spokesperson tweeted power plant breakdowns required stage 2 blackouts once again be instituted. A mere 6 hours later, Kulupasiwe again posts on social media saying stage 4 load shedding begins at 1 o'clock. Energy experts say this is completely unprecedented and stage 4 is uncharted territory. But Eskom's spokesperson insists we've been here before.
We did implement stage 4 of load shedding. I think it was on the 6th of March in 2014. But then it was under the broader definition of stage 3. At the time, stage 3 was a shortage of between 3,000 and 4,000 megawatts.
In a statement, the utility says it's unexpectedly lost 6 additional generating units. 4,000 megawatts now needs to be rotationally load shed nationally at any given time. South Africa's economy cannot run or grow by candlelight or generator.
Security of energy supply in our country is an absolute imperative.
Load shedding has an immense impact on the economy. This energy expert says 75 rand is lost per kilowatt hour, resulting in a staggering loss just for stage 2.
If we use this figure and calculate the cost to the economy for 13 hours a day of stage 2 load shedding, which is 2,000 megawatts, it comes to 2 billion rands per day.
How did we get here? Simply put, the utility has for years not done the necessary maintenance on its plants. Also, substandard and defective work done at Medupi and Kusile is exacerbating the situation.
Over a period of nearly, say, 6 years or so, of backlogs that we needed to have tackled. And this management and the board came when these things were there. But plans are underway to make sure that this the maintenance happens.
The utility says South Africans can expect an unstable power supply up until at least April this year. Michael Apple, Johannesburg.
So today, a first in our history, stage 4 load shedding. That means we'll spend more time in the dark as 4,000 megawatts of power is shed from the grid. Eskom says it's dealing with several plant breakdowns. And what impact will this have on business, both big and small? To explore this, we're joined by the Secretary General of the Black Business Council, Judy Nokwedi, and the Vice President of the Business Unity South Africa, Martin Kingston. Very warm welcome to both of you. It's going to have a devastating impact, isn't it?
You are so right. However, let's look at the context. At the moment, we have an installed capacity of over 51,000 megawatts. 46.7% of that is thermal, which is nuclear and coal. And then you have gas, you have concentrated solar, photovoltaic solar, and wind. So in an economy that is slow, where demand has decreased and business has installed energy efficiency mechanisms and consumers have been educated and started installing energy efficient devices in their homes and using less. So, short to say that this is a catastrophe. 4,000 unplanned megawatts in terms of unplanned breakdowns. So I'll pause there just to say at a macro level, when you have increased supply, a reduced demand, and then Eskom comes with a complete, I don't even know what to say, a bombshell.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's a shock, isn't it? I mean, I guess psychologically as well, this is the heart of our economy, the powerhouse of our economy, and it just grinds to a halt.
Well, Jane, we've been saying for some time that the best litmus test of the health of the economy is actually Eskom. And our ability to achieve our economic potential is fundamentally dependent upon Eskom's well-being. Last week at the State of the Nation address, the President gave us not only a glimmer of hope, but I think a route map to restructuring Eskom to be a fit-for-purpose organization that could actually support and underpin the economy. What has happened...
Sorry, he wants to restructure, doesn't he? But until you clean the rot at the heart of it...
Correct. So what I was going to say was what has happened today has, to some degree, fundamentally undermined the credibility that was projected last week. The board and the management who've been put in place, who earn our respect and have done a very difficult job in trying to clean up that rot that you talk about, have been wrong-footed by circumstances which has actually now placed not only Eskom, but the entire economy in jeopardy.
Let's listen to what energy expert Chris Yellen said about load shedding and the financial impact it'll have on the economy of the country.
If you use a figure of 75 rands per kilowatt hour as a cost to the productive economy of not having electricity, and this is a figure that the regulator NERSA has used some years ago, so it's a conservative figure. If we use this figure and calculate the cost to the economy for 13 hours a day of stage 2 load shedding, which is 2,000 megawatts, it comes to 2 billion rands per day is the cost of 13 hours of load shedding stage 2. That is the impact on the productive economy.
2 billion a day.
2 billion a day. So from the black business point of view, we're looking at this issue when you look at it in terms of the 3 C's. Confidence is a big one. So when you erode confidence in terms of businesses in South Africa and businesses wanting to come to South Africa, you have a problem, especially in light of the fact that the narrative since the investment conference last year was around we are fixing things. And I am absolutely confident in the President and his team doing just that. So you begin to fiddle with confidence, which has a devastating effect on morale and psyche. Then you look at the cost equation, which your expert has spoken to. So even if you do your numbers in and numbers out, which we are about, then the requirements from the fiscal and from other sources to bail out Eskom in its current crisis and dilemma, of course, it's a no-brainer. You have to invest in order to recoup, and then you come to your consumer and your customer. So those 3 C's are fundamental to everything we do in this country.
And it's going to be the consumer and the customer that picks up some of this
well,
shortfall,
there are only
aren't
two
they?
paymasters.
When the rates go up again?
Correct. There are only 2 paymasters. One is the consumer, the other is the taxpayer. BUSA has exactly so. BUSA has consistently said that what we require is a predictable, reliable, and competitive source of power for industry to thrive, small and large industry. Now what we don't have is predictability or reliability. And the problem that we have is that increasingly, as these situations manifest themselves, industries will not invest, and people will, as Judy has said, go off-grid. The more people that go off-grid, the less demand there is, the higher the tariff, the less affordable it is, and so you enter what is called the death spiral. Eskom is most definitely at the moment on the brink of entering a death spiral, and significant steps are going to have to be taken to arrest it. This current set of circumstances only exacerbates the problem, unfortunately.
As you say, it sort of undermines that positive talk. What if you're a small business? I mean, how do you factor this into your business plan? What do you need to do to make money during this time?
Let me give you a case in point. One of our businesses in Cape Town today has lost over 2,000 hours of manpower because the landlord does not allow for a generator. So when you want to foolproof your business, then obviously, what you do is you start looking at off-grid solutions, and if there are no off-grid solutions, then you look at a generator. And you know from the landlord, he talks about the noise factor, and if you live in suburbs where your neighbours have generators, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So in some ways, there are certain things you can do. I talked about energy efficiency solutions. So whether you're big business or small business, coupled to what Martin's saying, you need accessible energy and you need safe energy. And of course, reliability and predictability is part of that equation. So in the absence of private providers, you're actually held to ransom by Eskom. But we as the BBC have always said, we have solutions. All is not lost. And one of our solutions are, let's look at the power stations. We have a fleet of power stations. And the heart of what's happening here is at the power station. So we need Eskom to tell us, by the time we wake up tomorrow, these breakdowns, where are they, what are they, and why are they there? I mean, those 3 questions have to be answered.
And fair question,
and it does not vest at an executive level. It is at the power station where the managers run the power station.
And briefly, if you will, I mean, maybe you should send in the military as we did for the water crisis. What would you like to see happening tonight and tomorrow?
Well, it's clear that we're all going to have to now tighten our belts because, as is apparent, this situation is not going to be a one-night sensation. This is going to be an ongoing problem that we have to address. We need to demonstrate that we have the technical and operational skills to fix the immediate problems, those that are causing load shedding, and we need to relieve some of the stresses and strains on the Eskom balance sheet, specifically the very significant amounts of debt that Eskom is carrying that it cannot support. And we've suggested the government will have to step up to the plate, as the President has indicated, and provide incremental and additional support. We'll be interested to see what the Minister of Finance has to say on this next week in his budget speech.
Martin Kingston, Judy Nokwedi, thank you very much for talking through this national disaster that we are all suffering through. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do not need another consultant.
No, we don't. Still no. Still ahead, the incredible rescue story of a baby left in a drain, the credibility of a witness at the state capture inquiry, and opening up the wounds that never healed. Another push for apartheid's victims.